The Stalta doesn't fully require an update per se. This one I'm doing simply because I want to. Hey guys, welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're going to be diving deeper into this Mastery Rank 10 primary weapon. As per the usual, I'm going to have a cheap build, something affordable that newer 10.0 should be able to build, but of course we also got the quote-unquote in-game setup with a Riven. That said though, please keep in mind that my builds and guides usually take a new player friendly approach. I'm going to be taking my time and explaining whatever I feel is necessary for newer players. So in case you're an older player, a bit of a veteran, and you already know most of this stuff, please bear with me. With that out of the way, let's jump into the Stahlta. Let's begin by checking out how the weapon handles without any mods equipped. And for that, just a couple of free shots. The Stalta has two fire modes. In primary fire mode, this one is a projectile based attack, and as you can see, pinpoint accurate almost no matter the distance. That's 48 meters, something along those lines, and as you can see, still for the most part pinpoint accurate. But, because there always has to be a but, you do gotta deal with the travel time of these steel rods of sorts, right? And of course the weapon is fully automatic. The recoil isn't something to be worried about. It has one of those climbing recoils, observe, climbs a little bit, but then it really stabilizes. You don't really have much of an issue up until, let's say, something like 30 meters or so. The secondary fire mode of the Stalta requires a big charge up. As you can see, that's a pretty lengthy charge up, but at the end of which you're going to be launching a big projectile. It's going to be detonating 0.4 seconds after impact in a 7.2 meter radius with a damage fall off of, get this, 70%. So only the guy in the middle is going to take full damage, and as the explosion goes out, you're going to be losing some of that power. So bear that one in mind. One more problem with the secondary fire mode, it consumes 20 ammo. So your magazine by default is 40, which is plenty, but if you want to charge up for the big bada boom explosion, it's gonna take 20 ammo, so bear that one in mind. Also the charge up, as you saw there, is pretty slow. Thankfully the reload is on the quick side. Now let's have a closer look at what we're dealing with. Mod capacity is 60 out of 60, and if your Stalta comes with 30 out of 30, and by all means it should, jump into actions, plug in that Auto King Catalyst, double that mod capacity. And trust me, it's definitely worth it on the Stalta. Now you can pay 20 plat to have one installed, you can grind one from Grindwave, and you can also get a blueprint from the Daily Sortie. And of course some events in Warframe also feature an Auto King Catalyst as a possible or guaranteed reward. In events usually you get it built already, which is awesome. Well, some events that is. How many forma for the Stalta? Guys, you can get away with free. Free forma normally should be more than enough. Now, I overforma my weapon simply because I want to test certain mod combinations to see if this works like that or this works like that and so on and so forth. So don't be intimidated by the number of forma. I think you can get away with free. The accuracy is going to be 50 on primary fire mode, and on the secondary fire mode 25. Now you can use heavy caliber, is 100% worth it on this one. You will lose some of that accuracy, and really quick I'm going to show you exactly what is the difference. Before it was pinpoint accurate, it's fine. All of the shots mostly are landing in the crosshair, and when it comes to the secondary fire mode, you don't really care all that much. Now, let's talk about the reason I'm redoing this review in the first place. We got a skin for it. I love this skin because I love Unreal Tournament. You know the shock rifle? Yeah? Here it is. Shock rifle skin. Absolutely bloody insane, isn't it? Now, this was free for a short amount of time when the bundle first came out, but now I believe it's an Epic Store exclusive, so you gotta buy it on the Epic Store, and I'm fully aware a lot of you guys are not fan of this aspect. Now, the beauty about these skins, I think these are the first real premium skins there are in Warframe, because it doesn't just completely change the look of the weapon, as you can see, but it changes the sound and the visual effects as well. Now let me show you really quick. I just love it. You know, I'm an Unreal Tournament fanboy, what can I say? Sorry. If I go to audio and I just pump up the sound effects volume, I want to make sure you guys get the difference between these. Now listen up. Now let's put on the skin. Different effects, different everything, man. It's absolutely bloody hilarious. And also the color combinations on this one, because of the textures they chose to make for the skin, looks incredible. Look at that. You can make really cool fashion frames with this one. Now as for the sounds, listen up. And see this, the visuals are different too. Get lightning and everything. Even the big ball of explosion is different, man. I love it. Okay, so for the remainder of the review, we're gonna keep on using this skin. Which again was the whole point of the, like, me updating this one. Because the builds, as I said, are pretty, well, they're basically the same. Now, you can use heavy caliber like I said before. When it comes to critical stats on the primary fire mode, the base critical chance is not bad at 24%. But unfortunately, the critical multiplier at 1.8x is below average, which is definitely not ideal. Fire rate of 6 with a magazine of 40. Noise alarming, punch roll of 1.2. Now 1.2 is actually pretty good. It goes for the Grenier shield dude. 1.2 meters by default is definitely something nice to have. Reload of 1.4 seconds. Like I said, reload is on the quick side. And this is one of the things that changed from our last visit for the Stalta. Riven disposition went up. It started with 1 out of 5, now you got 2 out of 5. It went from 0.5 to 0.8 if you want the specific numbers. It's not a huge difference, but it is a difference. And if you're passionate about the weapon, of course you're gonna be loving this one. Now the status chance when it comes to the automatic fire mode or the primary fire mode is set to 22%. 22% is not half bad, but I would have loved to seen something like 30. Now, when it comes to the damage layout, let's quickly get back. I managed to stall for time successfully. Awesome, awesome. Impact puncture and slash on this one, slash being the highest, which is definitely a plus for the weapon, but unfortunately that status chance is not all that high. In secondary fire mode, the charge rate is 1.6 seconds, okay? So it is a pretty lengthy charge time, but you get a critical chance of 40%. And a 3.0 critical multiplier, which is way above average. Absolutely bloody fantastic. A magazine of 40, but effectively 2 shots. Alarming, and a reload of 1.8 seconds on this one, which is a tad on the weird side. You get why, right? Why is it 1.4 and now 1.8? That doesn't make a whole lot of... Yeah, I know. Status chance 32%. Now, considering how slow you fire with this one, I believe that 32% again is a little bit on the low side. It may seem high as a number, but again, considering you fire so slowly, it should have been something like 50 if you ask me. Let's take a look at the damage, because you might be tempted to play this one with shoot for the feet and just maximize your area of effect damage. Now, just to be clear, the explosion is this radial attack, right? 7.2 meter range with a fall off of 70% like we talked about, and the delay of 0.4 seconds. So 0.4 seconds after the impact, after the projectile makes contact with the ground, the walls, the enemy, whatever. Now you get 1200 radiation damage, which is amazing, but you can't ignore this part either. This is the projectile physically making contact with a target, and that's another 50% as a value at the 1200, right? So basically, if you're ignoring the impact hitting the target, you're foregoing 33 times 0.3%. You get it? Times 3% of the damage, and you shouldn't really do that. So again, maximize your damage, make sure the projectile makes contact directly with a target, and as before, slash is the highest number. Now, let's have a look at a standard build, shall we? And you got damage acceleration and heavy caliber multi-shot with split chamber, critical chance, critical damage, point strike, vital sense. Of course, hunter munitions needs to be here, and the 260-60 mods forming vital damage, malignant force, and rhyme rounds. As for the weapon excellence mod slot, which is worth unlocking, in this case, the terminal velocity for 60% projectile flight speed. It's gonna make the weapon easier to aim, easier to handle, more reliable damage in actual gameplay. Do give this one a spin. Again, I believe that unlocking the excellence slot for this one is worth it. Now for this build, your option slot is of course heavy calibre with 165% extra damage at the cost of minus 55% accuracy. But let's say you're more of a crit type of individual. Go for Argon Scope, 100%. This used to be such a rare and expensive mod, but nowadays you can head down to Deimos and get it pretty quickly. Simply do the bounties. On headshot, plus 135% critical chance when aiming for 9 seconds. An on headshot effect, my friends. So if you prefer crit, go this route. But let's say you like the machine gun experience in Warframe. In that case, 100% go for fire rate. And my favorite fire rate mod remains to this day Vile Acceleration with 90% fire rate. Tremendous mod. Amazing. And it makes the weapon feel a whole lot more perky. Now, I see a lot of players being scared about that minus 15% damage. My friends, it takes 15% away from your serration or your heavy caliber depending on your mod setup, right? You don't need to be scared about it. This is a corrupted mod, just like heavy caliber. And if you don't know how to farm corrupted mods, look at the cards right now. But let's say you prefer to play for the explosion. You like the secondary fire mode of the Stalta a whole lot. In that case, go with Prime Firestorm, my friends, and 65% blast radius. I don't think it's worth using the normal Firestorm with 24. If you got the Prime, definitely go for the Prime. You're going to be getting 12 meters worth of explosion, which is absolutely hilarious. But again, if you want my recommendation from a mathematical perspective, heavy caliber makes the most sense. So there you go. Now we're going to be testing our stuff on Corrupted Heavy Goons level 120, and we're going to make sure that Mesa is not going to skew the test results. First, we're going to take the test of primary fire mode and then the secondary explosions. Now, my friends, all you got to do is hit a target till about, look at that. I can't even get to finish my sentence. Hit a target till about 50% and then watch if the slashes kills the target. You get plenty of procs on your target. Let's see, we should get about 5 to 7 slashes and about 10 vitals. Look at that. Absolutely bloody insane, man. This weapon can definitely pack a punch. And let's keep in mind, there's no expensive mods on this build. Not even an expensive 60/60 mod. So everybody should be able to afford this build or something similar to this. If you don't have the necessary endo to max out Serration and Heavy Caliber, leave them 2 from the top. Alright, leave them 2 from the top. It's not gonna make a huge difference. As for the secondary fire mode, goodbye. Now that looked extremely impressive, and keep in mind, make sure your projectile, even if it is an explosion, to make contact with a target, because it will deal a whole lot more damage to that specific target. But let me outline again the fall off damage on this one. So we're gonna shoot in the center. Directly a headshot for that one. Take a look at that. Absolutely bloody insane. Primary target got destroyed, and as you can see, most of the damage will be done in the center. The more we go to the side, the less damage it did. So always keep in mind how damage fall off works in Warframe. If you're still on the fence about the Stalta, this should be enough proof to go and build the weapon. It's 100% recommended. But let's keep on going, shall we? My favorite elemental combo remains to this day Corrosive. I'm not a fan of Viral Mumu simply because it's so effective on a whole lot of primary weapons. Basically, if you have a primary weapon that has a decent amount of crit chance, you gotta go Mumu, and right now Viral is simply too strong to ignore. But if you're going down to Deimos, Viral isn't gonna help you all that much, because all the enemies, not all of them, most of the enemies there are immune to viral damage, in which case we fall back on good old reliable, or as I call it, Corrosive. It's not gonna be as strong, and high voltage can be expensive, alright? High voltage from the PC trade chat, I think it's around 50 plat right now, and I might be wrong. Please check Warframe market for more appropriate prices, but you can farm it, okay? If you don't want to spend the plat, head on over to the mission Elgar, Planet Ares, find all the free secret caches, then upon extraction you got a very small chance of getting this one or Shell Shock. You will need both of them in time for your primary builds, right? But if you see Battle Bringham, Battle Keteer the Void Trader that is, make sure to snag a copy of each, because farming these was a pain in the arse. So there you go. Now the beauty of not going for Viral anymore, I don't need to go for Mumu. Mumu without Viral doesn't make a huge impact. Essentially, the power of the slashes is amplified by the Viral proc. And if I don't have the Viral proc, my slashes will be feeble, so therefore Hunter Munitions doesn't make sense anymore. Instead, I can rely on what we talked about earlier. For example, I can go with Prime Firestorm. But in this case, I'm just gonna go with a little bit more fire rate, simply because it does make the weapon nice to handle. So there you go, we're gonna go with Vile Accelerashu in this case, or more critical chance. That's also a good idea. One more time, Corrupted Heavy Guns, level 120. We're just gonna go for the explosion initially. We're just gonna switch things. Oh, that was beautiful! It didn't kill anybody, but it was beautiful. Come on, it looked so amazing. Everything just boom. It didn't deal as much damage, right? But then again, in normal average everyday missions, I'm assuming you're not gonna stop and sing them a lullaby when it comes to slashes, right? You're just gonna keep on shooting until they dead. Now the advantage, of course, to Vile Acceleration is the super quick charge time. That is a whole lot better than it was before. Now let's test the primary fire mode on the Corrupted Heavy Goons as well. Another thing that I should really point out is that these Corrupted Heavy Goons are equipped with Ferrite armor, and that takes extra damage from Corrosive, 75% extra. So this is a pretty good scenario to showcase Corrosive, my friends. Look at that. I don't know, it's just satisfying. It's not as efficient as Vital Slash. But it's just so satisfying to use and have fun with. And at the end of the day, my friends, wasn't that the whole point of Framework to begin with? Have fun and blow stuff up? But yeah, if you want meta, you Vital Slash. Now let's talk about Riven mods. Now, I don't recommend Rivens for Dispo 1 weapons, and I barely recommend them for Dispo 2 weapons. At this point, it kinda gets worth it. You no longer need the perfect roll, at basically if you have disposition 1 out of 5, even a perfect roll might not be worth slotting. But with 2 out of 5, we can kinda talk about it, right? Now, I have an amazing Riven. This is a loaner from a friend, it's not mine. Okay, it is not mine. I got damage, critical damage, multi-shot, and minus puncture. Now this is just amazing, okay? It's gonna leave room for the procs that I want to proc on the weapon because I got a little bit of minus puncture. I am not a fan, I would have been more of a fan if it was minus impact, but I'm not entirely sure if the Stalta can roll minus impact, so bear that one in mind. This is still gonna be 100 munitions, Malignant Force Rhyme round, so basically you got 100 munitions to get it with Vital build. And of course a Riven will be making a difference. One thing that I do want to clear up, this is not me saying, hey, go spend thousands and thousands of plat on a Riven because why the hell not? No, you don't need to. Again, the weapon, as showcased, does not require a Riven in order to be competitive. But if you're passionate about the weapon and you want to get the most you can out of it, of course, a Riven will be required. And at the end of the day, it's not like we have anything better to do in Warframe. Take a look at that. Beautiful. 45,000 slash there, bleed, absolutely hilarious, man. So yes, Rivens will be making a difference. If you want a stat priority for your Riven, it's really gonna depend what do you prefer. You prefer using the primary, you prefer using the secondary, or you just want to use both like I do in normal missions. Multi-shot is king. No questions about it. Multi-shot, damage, critical chance, harmless or quote-unquote positive negative, something like minus impact would definitely be ideal. But if you get something like damage multi-shot, it's gonna be good enough. Slot it on the weapon. Make sure it has a harmless negative too. Now, one more thing that I do want to do, bump up everything with Warframe buffs, and for that we're going to be using the ever so lovely Lady Mirage Prime in her Prime variant. This is basically an improved Prime, and of course we're gonna, oh my, that looks so cool, man. I really dig this skin. When it comes to buffs, Corrosive Projection is still meta when it comes to heavily armored targets, but if your build calls for something like Pistol Lamp, Rejuvenation, Growing Power, whatever you want, simply use the aura that is more comfortable to you. If you're newer in Warframe, Energy Siphon should be at the top of your list, because I'm assuming you can spam Energy Pizza right now. Rifle Lamp is also not a bad idea. When it comes to Arcanes, Arcane Rage once again at the top of the list on headshot, 15% chance for plus 180% damage to primary weapons for 24 seconds. Farm from the third Eidolon down on Cetus. You don't like to farm Eidolons? You think it's a pain? Simply buy them from the trade chat. If you're newer in Warframe and you have these two slots locked, don't be in a hurry. Yes, Arcanes do make a huge impact, because they really do, but don't worry, you'll get there. Arcane Avenger, well, this is probably the most powerful offensive arcane in Warframe. It offers 45% critical chance for 12 seconds, a 21% chance on damage, but the beauty of this one is that it's a bonus additive after. It applies to your primary, melee, and to your secondary as well. You gotta have Arcane Avenger R5. And you can also use a Sentinel, right? It's not a huge buff, but it is worth mentioning. Get yourself a Sentinel, any Sentinel will do, and on that Sentinel's weapon, make sure you have the Vigilante mods, all of them, Offense, Supplies, Fervor, and Armaments. You're going to be getting that 20% chance to enhance critical hits from primary weapons. And by the way, if you have Armaments, Vigilante Armaments on your primary, you don't need to use it here anymore. Even if the little Sentinel blows up, dies, and never comes back to life, you will retain that buff, so bear that one in mind. God, I was hoping to make this a quicker review, but I failed, I guess. We're gonna turn off pause the AI so they can hit me and I can get my buffs. And of course, we're gonna bump up the level to level 150. We're gonna activate Empower. And then Mirage's free ability for an absolutely staggering damage increase, as well as her ever so lovely clones. Now, if I use the secondary, I'm just gonna annihilate them too quickly, aren't I? Yep, that's just too fast. Now you see him, now you don't. Absolutely bloody hilarious, isn't it? And if you have the fire rate mod, that's also gonna help you with very quick clear. But let's hold our horses. This is Mirage Prime, and Mirage Prime does have that fantastic gift of making essentially everything seem powerful. but the Stalta is legitimately an extremely strong weapon, as you can see. So to summarize the update somewhat, we got 3 things to bear in mind. First of all, we got a Riven disposition increase, but it's not a huge increase from 1 to 2. Second of all, we got this absolutely amazing skin for the Stalta, but of course this is a subjective matter. I think it's amazing, but you might think differently. And third of all, we got Prime Firestorm. So if you enjoy playing the Stalta into that big bada boom explosion, you're definitely gonna enjoy Prime Firestorm. Use it in the option slot. As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And if you got any sorts of feedback for me, by all means, drop it in the comment section down below. Also in the comment section down below, if you want to suggest any type of content. Now, in all honesty, I can't exactly promise you that. It'll be done by next time, or even within a week, because sometimes these things take a while to make. But what I can promise you is that I will be reading through each and every comment. You can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. And if you love the content, consider supporting us via Patreon. Until next time, my friends. Bye-bye.